You pour milk into your coffee without thinking. It's just something you do. It has been something humans have done for thousands of years. Mammal milk, cow, goat, sheep. You've never once questioned it. But here's the thing nobody ever tells you. Birds make milk too. Real milk. Nutritionally richer than the milk in your fridge. Produced inside living birds right now, today, all around the world, and yet you have never touched a single drop of it. Not once in the entire history of humanity. The question isn't whether bird milk exists. The question is why we never wanted it. And the answer goes so much deeper than you'd expect. Because buried inside this strange food mystery is something far more unsettling. A window into why your ancestors made the choices they made. Why some creatures got farmed and others got forgotten. And why the food on your table today was decided not by logic, not by nutrition, but by something much more ancient and strange. Stay with me until the end, because the last part will completely change how you look at every glass of milk you ever drink. Let's start with the thing nobody tells you. Birds do make milk. Not metaphorically, not approximately. Actually, biologically, technically milk. The birds that do it are pigeons, doves, flamingos, emperor penguins. Inside the bodies of these birds, a substance is produced specifically to feed their young. It is loaded with fat, it is loaded with protein, it contains more nutrients per drop than cow's milk or even human breast milk. Scientists who have actually analyzed it have called it extraordinary. Researcher Meagan Gillespie published work examining the composition of pigeon crop milk and found fat content nearly double that of dairy cow milk. So why have you never heard of it? Why has no civilization in human history ever built a bird milk industry? The answer starts with where this milk actually comes from. And this is where it gets strange. In mammals, milk is produced by mammary glands. Specialized organs evolved over hundreds of millions of years precisely to produce a liquid that flows out easily. You squeeze, you pull, the milk comes. Birds have none of that. Instead, the birds that produce crop milk do it inside a pouch in their throat called a crop. The crop normally exists to store food before digestion, but in certain species during breeding season, something remarkable happens. The cells lining the walls of the crop begin to multiply rapidly. They swell, they fill with fat and protein, and then they detach from the wall entirely. The bird regurgitates these cells directly into the mouths of their chicks. It is not a flowing liquid, it is not something you can pour. It is closer to thick cottage cheese. Chunky, dense, cellular. You cannot milk a pigeon the way you milk a cow. There is no tap. There is no udder. There is no mechanism to extract it without the bird itself regurgitating it on purpose. And a pigeon will only do that for its own chick. Not for you. This is the first wall, the biological wall, but it is not the only one. Because even if you could extract bird milk, you would immediately run into the second problem. Volume. A single dairy cow today can produce anywhere from 20 to 40 liters of milk in a single day. A single pigeon produces enough crop milk to feed 2 tiny chicks, nothing more. The entire production lasts only the first few days of a chick's life. After that, the crop returns to normal. The milk window closes. Researcher Pat Bradshaw documented this back in the 1990s, studying exactly how brief and limited crop milk production really is. A few days, for 2 birds. That's the entire output. To feed even a small human settlement purely on pigeon milk, you would need millions of pigeons all synchronized to breed at exactly the same moment. And even then, you would have a brief window of slightly chunky protein paste. Not exactly something you build a civilization around, but here's what's fascinating. Humans didn't domesticate cows because cows were the most nutritious animal available. They domesticated cows because cows were manageable. They were large enough to produce meaningful quantities. They were calm enough to be handled. They could be kept in herds. And critically, their milk production could be manipulated. A cow's milk doesn't stop when the calf is weaned. If you keep milking the cow, keep stimulating the mammary glands. The cow keeps producing. Sometimes for years. This was the biological loophole that changed human civilization. Archaeologist Bogucki published research in the 1980s, tracing the earliest evidence of dairy farming back to communities in Poland around 5,500 BCE. These early humans figured out that certain mammals could be coaxed into permanent, high-volume milk production. A biological exploit, a cheat code written into the mammal body. Birds have no such loophole. You cannot trick a pigeon into producing crop milk indefinitely. The system doesn't work that way. The cells grow, the cells fall, the process ends. There is no biological lever to pull. Now imagine you are a human 10,000 years ago. You are watching a pigeon feed its chick. You notice the chick is thriving. You think, perhaps there is something valuable here. You try to capture it. You try to extract it. You get a tiny amount of chunky paste. You would need 1,000 pigeons to feed your family for a single day. And even then, the window closes in a week. Meanwhile, there is a goat standing 20 feet away. Calm. Manageable. Producing milk every day. The choice wasn't even a choice. It was obvious. But this raises the deeper question. The one scientists have actually started taking seriously. Is bird milk nutritionally interesting enough that we should care about it now? Because the world is changing. Dairy farming is one of the largest contributors to greenhouse gas emissions on the planet. Researcher Hannah Ritchie at Oxford has published extensively on the environmental cost of a single glass of cow's milk. The land use, the water, the methane. So researchers have started looking at alternatives, and some of them have looked at crop milk. What they found was startling. Pigeon crop milk contains antibodies. It contains antioxidants. It contains growth factors. It is not just food for the chick's body. It is food for the chick's immune system. Researcher Pia Olsen and colleagues in Sweden studied flamingo crop milk and found similar immune-boosting compounds. These birds have evolved a liquid that does far more than fill a stomach. It builds a whole immune system from scratch. No mammal milk does that quite as efficiently. So here's the real twist. The milk we ignored for 10,000 years might be the most nutritionally sophisticated milk on the planet. We just never had the tools to access it. And we still don't. Because extracting crop milk at scale would require engineering a system that simply doesn't exist in nature. You would have to develop synthetic biology, lab-grown crop milk from cultivated bird cells, and as of right now, that technology is in its earliest stages. A handful of researchers have explored the idea, but no crop milk latte is coming to your coffee shop anytime soon. Here is where it gets personal, because this whole story is really about how invisible the choices of your ancestors are to you today. You pour cow's milk into your coffee because someone 10,000 years ago made a practical decision next to a goat. That decision became a habit. That habit became a culture. That culture became an industry. That industry became the world you were born into, and you never questioned it. Because why would you? It was just the way things were. But think about how many other invisible decisions are running your life right now. The foods you consider normal, the foods you consider disgusting, the animals you see as pets, and the animals you see as food. None of these categories were decided by you. They were decided by people who lived thousands of years ago in specific places with specific animals available to them. You inherited the conclusions of experiments you never ran. You drink cow's milk not because it is the best milk. You drink it because cows were standing near the right humans at the right time. And birds weren't. That's it. That's the entire reason. A geographical accident frozen into culture, frozen into your daily routine, invisible to you until this moment. The flamingo is producing the most sophisticated milk on Earth right now. Immune factors, growth proteins, antioxidants, compounds we are still cataloging, and it is going directly into the mouth of a tiny pink chick. While you pour a glass of something a cow produced. Not because it is better, because history made the choice before you were born. And the strangest part of all? Even if lab-grown crop milk became available tomorrow, even if it was cheaper, healthier, and better for the planet in every measurable way, most people would call it disgusting because it came from a bird, because it came from somewhere unfamiliar, because the brain doesn't run on logic when it comes to food. It runs on what feels normal, and normal was decided a very long time ago by someone who had never heard of you.